Good morning. My name is Sam Korb. I'm a PhD candidate at the Digital Institute of Technology at TEFMA. I'm presenting a paper I wrote together with Sachs and also Otto, as a very distinct paper. Our paper is called Portfolio Process and Operations Analysis of a Meta Product Production System in our Innovation Promise. I'll be happy to make titles, but I have no idea what that is. So what we're going to talk about today is, first off, what is the PPO model, the Portfolio Process and Operations Model, a little bit about Fira Palvelut and the work that they've done, and then look at the work they've done through the lens of the PPO model. I should note that this is not, there's not an action research. We didn't go in and apply the model of Fira. It's rather a retrospective case study looking at the work that they've done through the eyes of this model. So the PPO model starts as its base from the process and operations model that Gail Shingo developed. The operations are the work that's actually done in workstations. In this example, they have cutting, usually takes place at the cutting station, drilling, etc. And the innovation that Shingo had was to say, well, there's another flow. We know to also look at how the product moves through the stations as it transfers from raw materials into final form. And today we often take it for granted that we should look at the view of the flow through the eyes of the product, but at the time it was innovation. Because the tendency, and if you look far back as the Gilbreths, was to look at how do we improve the operation the worker is doing, and not necessarily looking at the work that is happening to the process, the product itself. It's been adapted to the flow line view is essentially a similar sort of view. The products flow through the trades, horizontal axis, and you see the trades, which are really the workstations themselves, as they move through the project itself. The PPO model adds another element, another axis, which is the portfolio. In construction, a general contractor and a subcontractor doesn't only typically have one project that they're working on. They're moving around different projects and trying to balance the demands of one project versus the other project, where the resources, where they send the resources, which is true both for what general contractors send to subcontractors and also the subcontractors in terms of how they allocate their labor. And what we see, there's both a hierarchical relationship between these elements, the portfolio, process, and the operation, because the process is obviously composed of a set of operations, but the portfolio is also consists of a set of processes, all the different products that are flowing through the projects. But there's also a cyclical relationship. They're interrelated. And we'll see through what happened at Fira how we really see that come to light, how the portfolio element interacts with the operations element. And one of our hypotheses is that the way to really improve is to, number one, recognize that these elements exist, address them, and only through creating holistic solutions can we really lead to improve these. So Fira, and Fira Palvelut in particular. Fira is a Finnish general contractor. Done a lot of work with LPS, EIM, Kanban, Avea, and a whole host of other acronyms and Japanese terms. Fira Palvelut is a subsidiary of Fira, which focuses on bathroom refurbishment. In the 1950s and 1960s, there's a wave of mass housing construction in Finland. The bathrooms and the plumbing systems are meeting the end of their lifespans. So it's a big market for coming into a building project, an apartment building, ripping out the bathroom entirely, replacing the plumbing, and a lot of electrical. I tried to get it before, but we didn't manage to get one, but basically, you rip it out, put in the new systems, and you get a beautiful bathroom. Fira, with their interaction with Lean, decided to start looking at two main concepts of flow and value. And the way they started with the flow is they just put up a webcam. And they said, okay, let's look at one particular apartment, and let's see how long do we see workers actually working there. And what they found was, over the course of the 13 weeks of lead time from the apartment, the customer moving out, because these are refurbishments, so someone is moving out and then coming back, only 18% of the time is there actually someone here doing the work. So if they were to make no other improvements, but just make sure someone was constantly working in the apartment, they could drop it from 18 weeks to 20% from 13 weeks. And the other element was the value. And they had a lot of discussions around what is value in the eyes of our customers. So clearly, having to move out is not value. The smaller amount of time that they can move out is clearly better. And also an element of customization. They have a service engineer who works with each of the customers to make sure they get their bathroom that they want. Their bathroom that they want. So if we return to the PPO model, so what is Fira Palvelut done? Typical project portfolio would look like this. We have a project, we have the subcontractors, they all do their work, we finish. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next time. And then they start a new project from zero. Some of the same subcontractors, some new subcontractors. Even within the subcontractors, the teams might be different because of this gap. And what they identified at Fira was really this is a waste. Right? The team starts learning, starts working together, learning how to interact, how to create the system and improve it, and then we just break it off and restart this learning curve from zero. So what they said was if we can connect the projects, and we can just have the subcontractors move from project to project, one after the other, we don't have to send everybody home and start from scratch. We can have the same team, either through an alliance agreement or something similar, which moves from project to project to project. And this way, the learning curve just keeps going on. Everyone here has probably heard of the peculiarities of construction, and this ad hoc nature of projects is always said as a problem. Here, they're really addressing them. By realizing that there is a portfolio and giving an answer to that, they're managing to improve that. Next on this process, in this picture here, someone drilling a hole in a concrete wall. Once they had a stable team that was moving from project to project, they could start looking at process in ways which aren't necessarily, there's no time for a typical project. And one thing they saw was, part of the work was drilling holes in concrete with a diamond drill. And they found that because it was subcontracted out to someone who was not inside the lines, they had to wait to build up a whole batch, and it was incremental filling. And they ended up buying a diamond drill for one of the subcontracting teams so they could do the work in one piece flow fashion. Here is also looking at how they've managed to shrink the timeline. Like I said, instead of having a large batch, they could shrink the batch size and increase the time and reduce the amount of time, lead time for the customers. Now, everyone here has seen this picture, right? No one here is surprised by, wow, this is a new concept. I think really the innovation is Fira has managed to do it. I think the difference is most people continue to work like this, even though they know this would be better. So they managed to do that. If we look at operations, as a reminder, is what the actual work that's actually done by the teams themselves. And when you have a stable team and you have this intention process, we can start looking at how to improve the individual operations. The electrical team, for example, by their own measure, was able to drop their costs per apartment, per bathroom by 18%. And through the work that they've done with Alliance, and this is very similar to many people have seen an IPD chart, by reducing the amount of cost, they have extra profit that they're able to distribute among the partners, which is another incentive, which is only enabled by having a portfolio being addressed. So really, to conclude, the implementation of Fira really, I think, is a good illustration of the model, because by addressing each of the elements, they've been able to have significant improvements. Like I said, the standard in the market is 13 weeks of customer move out to do the refurbishment. They were able to drop that to 5 weeks, which you can imagine is a significant market advantage. They've grown the business sixfold in the last few years. But we also see how they're interconnected by addressing the portfolio and realizing that the subcontractors don't want to have these gaps either. They were able to make improvements to the process and to the operations themselves. And therefore, we have the hypothesis again that by addressing each of the elements, by paying attention to them, by developing solutions that deal with them, leads to positive outcomes, win-win solutions for everyone involved. The general contractor increases their market share, increases their profit. Subcontractors don't have to worry about underutilization, which is a prime concern for them. Also increase their profit, and also the customers who have to move on for less time and get a higher quality product. So that is it. And I would like to say, if anyone has any more interest in learning about Fira, at the end of this year, maybe next year, we're producing a book called Building Lean, Building New. which is a command by Rutledge, and we have a whole chapter there devoted to talking about Fira as well. I think in the packets everyone got there was a flyer for that. So that's it. Any questions?
Very good talk.
Great timing again. Question?
And I might defer some questions about Fira to go ahead.
Peter Berger, PPO Construction. Just have a question about the portfolio report. Did Fira, I don't know who the procuring customer was, I mean, I don't know if it's a government or something like that, but did they have that portfolio of projects as a single bid? And then they were able to maintain that same team through the multiple projects?
Sure. So